Hello and welcome to today's episode of History Behind the Page, the live series where you get to know the people behind your favorite history pages. Tonight is technically episode 12, but it's really actually episode 2. So today we have James from Project Passed On. He runs an amazing history YouTube channel and Instagram page, taking you all the greatest places down in Florida and all around. So I'm excited to have him back on today. This is a live Q&A, so you are more than welcome to ask questions. All I ask is that on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, there is a little question mark bubble box. Submit your questions there because sometimes they get lost in the comments and we want to make sure that we're getting to your questions that you are asking. So let's go ahead and get James on here. Hey!
What's up? How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good. Happy to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming back.
Of course,
So,
of course.
yeah.
I had a busy morning, so I'm doing you a favor.
I know, I know you are.
Busy morning of nothing.
How have you been?
I'm good. I'm good. Been busy. It feels like since the last time we talked, time is just going. I need like 36 hours in a day instead of 24.
I know
So,
the last time.
no, that would be greatly appreciated. But time is flying.
Yeah, I mean the last time we spoke into this, it was back in February. So
Yeah,
it's been a couple.
it
It's been
has.
a
And
hot second. Yeah.
just a couple of weeks ago. I mean,
Yeah, I know.
I'll even sit down to start editing an episode and like, I'll sit down for an hour or two. And then it's like 7 o'clock at night. I'm like, I've been here for 6 hours. I
You're
still
like, what is
do.
this? Well, that's what happens when you run a great history YouTube channel.
Appreciate
So
that.
that's
I, that.
gotta get the content out. So
It's hard,
yeah,
but I'm trying.
exactly. So let's kind of just dive right into it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what got you into history?
All right. Well, you may have heard some of this before, but
Maybe.
it started when I was a kid. I don't
Hmm.
know why I was interested in it, but my parents got divorced when I was relatively young.
Hmm.
Nothing crazy, but they just went their separate ways. But on the weekends, I'd go to my dad's,
Hmm.
and he was a huge Roman Empire military history buff. Especially the Civil War and the Roman Empire were his things. And when I was old enough, I started watching Gladiator with him, and he would teach me about the Roman legions and the Colosseum. And then one day he popped in Gettysburg, and I was
Hmm.
old. I've seen the movie hundreds of times in my life, but that was
Hmm.
a favorite thing to do when he would have me on the weekends. Is we'd watch Gettysburg, Gladiator. It would progress into the Patriot. It was around that time when that came out, and from then on,
Hmm.
booked. Anytime there was a movie or anything like that, I would be all in. And then from there, when I play outside, I'd play Army. I was Francis Marion attacking all the redcoats in the woods. The neighbors probably thought I was a lunatic, but uh, me and a few other guys, I had a pretty strong group of militia when I was younger. But
Hmm.
me, I had thousands of the little plastic soldiers, and
Uh-huh.
as I got older, I just happened to take a video production class in high school, I think. I think it was my senior year. It was just an elective. I didn't really have any background in it. I took it and I really enjoyed it.
Hmm.
And that's really all the experience I have as far as like video production.
Hmm.
But for one of my final projects I did, it was right around the time when the Marines were taking back Fallujah in Iraq.
Oh yeah.
And I found some footage of it and put it to music and put like facts and things like that in it. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. And, I didn't really follow through with it after high school. I became a firefighter shortly after. I've been doing that
Hmm.
but every now and then I would make a video, like a compilation video of like the emergency responses we had throughout the year. And it'd
Hmm.
be kind of cool, like a camaraderie morale thing, and use it for recruiting new members and things like that. And
Hmm.
it was during quarantine. I think it was 20. It's been a little bit now.
I know. What year is it?
I think, yeah, right when everything started to shut
Hmm.
down. So I was at work one day on YouTube. My wife and I, at the time she was my fiance, at the
Hmm.
time we were trying to do a DC trip to once everything opened back up again, and I came across the History Underground, the GOAT.
Hmm. Yeah.
And before I knew it, I watched like 10 of his videos, and I was like, it's, really interesting. I started following him, and again, my love for history goes back to since I was a kid. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, I have this video production, kind of background, very amateur background, but I was like, you know what? I live in St. Augustine, and there is history everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fort 10, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes from my house walking distance. I had no idea. But I went out and I just started filming one day, and I kind of put a video together on my phone. I had no computer, no video editing programs, nothing like that. But here we are today, almost a year
Is
later.
is that no? That would probably be about like two years later. I mean, it's 2046 now since we're in COVID time. So
Yeah. Yeah. I think I started Project Past summer of last year. Maybe it was
Oh
June.
wow.
And I didn't do anything with it. I kind of created it. I had the name, and I had some ideas, and I kind of sat on it for a couple months, and then finally my wife was out of town. I was like, you know what, I'm going to I found a site on Google Maps. I was kind of looking at stuff nearby, and I just went
Mm-hmm.
there. I started filming. Again, I had really no structure, nothing like that. It was just kind of filming. I edited it on my phone, and I was like, you know what, I'll upload it, and we'll see how it goes. And I really enjoyed the process, and I learned a lot about, walking with a camera around in public. It's very, very awkward.
It's
For
very awkward.
some reason, when the camera's on, I don't know how to speak. I don't know how to say words.
Mm-hmm.
I completely forget how to be an adult. So that's been one of the hardest things, is getting comfortable talking with the camera. So I would go to sites maybe early in the morning that weren't as busy. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'm at the point where I don't really care what anyone thinks of me anyway.
Yeah.
But now I'm especially at the point when I'm doing this, it's just, I find a lot more people are curious, like, hey, what are you doing? And now,
Mm-hmm.
get into it. Not that I'm the best self-promoter, but it's been a
So
journey. I've enjoyed it.
that's so is this first video on your channel?
Yeah, it is. It's
It is?
Caroline.
It's what was it?
It's Fort Caroline.
Oh,
It's
Fort Caroline.
yeah. So the Spanish settled St. Augustine in 1565. Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's touted as the nation's oldest city, which Pensacola was established a couple years before. That's kind of a running battle between the two cities. But I found sandwiched in between those two, the French landed near present-day Jacksonville, and they established Fort Caroline. Well, the Spanish obviously weren't too happy with that. They claimed Florida. They figured Florida runs from present-day Florida all the way to Maine.
Mm-hmm.
So there was obviously some tension there, and when you have two nations vying for the same territory, there's going to be conflict. So just learning about all that was a really cool experience, because before I found Fort Caroline on Google, I had no idea it existed. So that was
Mm-hmm.
a really cool experience.
So when when you choose to where you're going, are you kind of learning along the way as you're doing this, or is it stuff that you
Yeah,
prior know about, or?
yeah, I would say as of now, I think I have like 32 episodes out now, and I would say probably like 20 to 25 of them were
Mm-hmm.
completely new experiences to me. Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
may know of the site, but I've never been before. And there's a handful that I've been a few times, and like Fort Matanzas is one of my favorite places in our area. It's a little tiny outpost overlooking what is called the Matanzas Inlet, and which means massacre in Spanish, which I
Oh.
cover in my episodes. But yeah, it's a lovely place. Besides the name.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
you have to take a ferry because it's on a barrier island. You take a ferry,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just the water's crystal clear. You always see wildlife. It's such a cool place, and despite the name and it's a military fort, it's pretty peaceful there. So I was really excited to share that. I think that was episode 6 or 7. But a lot of the places that I've gone to, I'm pretty big on Google Maps, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll type in battlefields or fortifications if we're going on
Mm-hmm.
do some research and study, and the majority of them I've never heard of. So when I'm pulling up, I try to keep it as organic as possible. So
Yeah.
if there's a site I haven't heard of, I may research a little bit about it so I can kind of pass on some facts to you. But
Yeah.
most of them are I've never seen before, so you're seeing it for the first time with me, which is what I like. I like that unscripted feel, like I'm bringing you along with me. That's what
Yeah.
I'm kind of going for. So
No, I think that's great because you're teaching, but you're also learning along the way too with
A
your
lot. I'm
followers and stuff. And
learning
I think
a lot.
that's yeah, it's better than being like, "Hi, this is this and this
Yeah.
is this." It sounds fake, and history should be passionate and fun. So I love your style. I absolutely love
Well,
your
I appreciate.
channel. Yeah. So how much history is in Florida? Because I know when we spoke prior to this, I had absolutely no idea that there were all these forts and the history was so rich in Florida. Well, I'm on the what I was like, what coast am I on? I'm on the West Coast, so like I don't know that much about the East Coast, especially down south. So how rich is Florida?
It's pretty rich,
Yeah.
especially like St. Augustine. It's touted
Mhm.
as the nation's oldest city, which it's the nation's oldest continuously occupied city, European
Oh.
city. Obviously, Native Americans were here before that,
Mhm.
but I mean, it's like I said, the contention between the British and French, and then obviously when the English and they started settling the Carolinas, there was contention between them, and they kind of tried to establish a buffer zone called Georgia.
Mhm.
It's I mean it seems like I find more and more the more I go out and research it. Like I just it's been there forever, but I just came across it. There's an old Spanish quarry
Mhm.
where they mine something called coquina, and it's a stone really prevalent here, and they built the Castillo de San Marcos out of it,
Mhm.
which is the oldest masonry fort in the United States. Overlooks St. Augustine, again, another beautiful area.
Mhm.
But the cool thing about the coquina is it's porous and soft. So like at
Mhm.
first, like, is that a good stone to make a fort out of? Like it's soft.
Mhm.
Well, when a cannonball hits it, it absorbs all the energy. So the
Ah.
cannonball would hit it and just bounce off. So when the British
Mhm.
were sieging St. Augustine, they were like, what in the world? What do we do?
What?
it's You find little nuggets like that, like, oh, this is one of the quarries that the Spanish mined the coquina from, and then
Mhm.
Kansas Inlet itself. That's where the French were trying to attack St. Augustine when the Spanish first settled. They hit a storm, drove them off course. Well, a lot of their ships and stuff wrecked, and they came ashore near Daytona Beach now, which is
Mhm.
maybe about an hour from St. Augustine.
Mhm.
They were working their way back up, and the Spanish met them at that inlet, and they ended up massacring all of them in those dunes. And then it would bear the name Matanzas, which means slaughters or massacres in Spanish. So just like little nuggets like that, like that's a beach that I've gone to my whole life.
Mhm.
A beautiful area, and then it has such a dark past. It's when you start digging around, you can really find so much history like entrenched all around you, regardless of your location.
Yeah. Was there a lot of like battles and things like that? You were just talking about the massacre and stuff like that. Was there a lot of that type of stuff all throughout
Um,
Florida during history?
to my knowledge, not a whole lot. Like you had those few battles between the French and the Spanish in the 1500s.
Mhm.
Civil War wise, there's a few locations, but the battles were nothing in comparison to what was happening in Virginia. Things like Gettysburg and stuff like that. The
Mhm.
battles that happened here were minuscule, a couple thousand. Ulithi battlefield is about 3 hours from me west.
Okay.
That was the site of the largest Civil War battle. Actually, per the number of soldiers that fought in that battle, to the number that to the number of casualties the Union suffered, it was one of the highest casualty rates of the war for the Union. When you
Oh,
look at
well.
the amount of people that were hit and suffered injuries as opposed to
Mhm.
fought in it, which is pretty interesting. Again, you don't think of Florida as like a hotbed during the Civil War, but there's just really cool sites like that all scattered out. It's like a little
Mhm.
bit of everything. There isn't like just Civil War or just the early Spanish colonization. There's a lot of Seminole War stuff. One of the there's a nearby location. It's just a stone marker now, but that's where the leader of the Seminole, Osceola,
Mhm.
who's a well-known figure, he was captured under the flag of truce, like literally like 10 minutes from my house, like that way.
Oh.
It's a normal stone marker in the woods.
Mhm.
And he was captured under the flag of truce, and he was kept prisoner at the Castillo de San Marcos, and he was transferred to I think North or South Carolina. I don't remember the exact location.
Mhm.
He died shortly after that, but that was a pretty impactful event, and it was kind of frowned upon by the American people at the time because he was captured
Mhm.
under the white flag of truce. So I don't know. It's so interesting to learn these stories, and you go down the rabbit holes, and you're like, I had no idea. I've lived here my whole life. I had no idea.
Yeah. Oh, that is so interesting. So I know that your wife's a history teacher, correct?
Yes,
Autumn's a history teacher, which by the way, how is newlywed life?
it's good. It's
It's
good.
good?
Time is flying by, but you know,
Yeah.
we try to make time for us when we can. But it's going good. We've been together since, oh boy, 2017, which,
Mm-hmm.
in the grand scheme of things isn't a whole lot of time, but we've lived together prior to getting married, so it wasn't like a huge adjustment for us. So we kind of just,
Yeah.
where we were before the wedding. But
Yeah. So
asking,
Autumn, yeah, so Autumn being a history teacher and obviously a lover of history, she travels with you a
yep.
lot, doesn't she? Yeah. So where are the places that you guys have traveled together that are just like super interesting to you and like just memorable?
So she teaches IB history, and her
Mm-hmm.
curriculum is pretty big on just before World War One, all the way through the Russian Revolution into the Cold War. So she's big on
Mm-hmm.
that time period of history.
Okay.
Well, that time period of history isn't really prevalent in the United States. You can go to museums and stuff and learn about that, but so all the places that we've been, the majority have been for me.
Yeah.
The the most memorable is probably Chattanooga. We went there
Mm-hmm.
for a friend's wedding,
Mm-hmm.
and ended up making time for the next day. And again, I had no idea this battle happened, which I'm ashamed to say because I'm a Civil War buff.
Mm-hmm.
But so we're in Florida. There's no mountains. So we
Yeah.
go to Chattanooga, and there's mountains everywhere. We're like, oh my, this is amazing.
What are these
But
things?
yeah,
Just kidding.
so we got to go on top of one called, I believe, it was the Battle for Lookout Mountain. And so we got to
Mm-hmm.
drive up it down the winding roads and just learning about the battle that took place on this mountain. I think it was called the Battle Above the Clouds. And it was
Mm-hmm.
before Project Pass, before any of that. So we were going to places together before all this, but that was
Mm-hmm.
probably the most memorable just because, I mean, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Just it's not like I haven't seen mountains before, but being in the mountains and
Yeah.
cold, because again, we have like 3 weeks of winter in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably the most,
Winner.
yeah. Hey, you get a freeze or two.
Oh, okay.
It got to 30. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, it was rough. I had to break out the hoodie. It was rough.
um, tough life, tough life.
It was
Um,
tough.
so you guys just went on your honeymoon. You guys went down to Louisiana, right?
Yeah.
And
So
you,
we were planning on like a DC, Gettysburg, Harper's Ferry,
mm-hmm.
Antietam, kind of that region. And then for some reason, flight prices just decided to double.
Oh, no.
So we were like, we can make it work, but we may not have groceries for the next month when we get back home.
Yeah.
So we were kind of talking, like we still wanted to do a multi-city place, and we found really cheap flights to New Orleans. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
it's a really cool museum there. So
Mm-hmm.
we went there, went to the World War II Museum, that was amazing. Kind of
Yeah.
over in a good way because you're walking up and it's just giant there's three giant buildings, and there was gallery after gallery after gallery.
Mm-hmm.
That was cool. Well, I'm sure we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we went to New Orleans. Neither one of us have ever been before, so it was pretty cool. And then we went to Charleston after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we stayed a night in Savannah, which we've been to tons of times. It's about 3 hours from our home. So
Yeah.
we stayed there on the way home. So yeah, it was good. Saw a lot of cool things that neither one of us have ever seen before. So we made it work.
Yeah, because that area is like, I mean, pretty rich in history. So that's
Yeah,
like,
very
it's,
rich.
yeah, super, super busy. So uh, what, what do the guys at the firehouse think about your interest in history and your channel?
So at first I was kind of like, man, I'm gonna get ripped apart for this. We're pretty hard on each other, but
Mm-hmm.
they all love it. At
Yeah.
least to my knowledge. They all enjoy it. Every now and then they're like, hey man, when's the next episode coming out? So that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty cool. But yeah, they've all been supportive. Some of them have bought like their own coffee mugs, Project Pass coffee mugs,
Oh,
and
that's so cool. Oh.
yeah. So yeah, it's been pretty cool. And so in the fire service, history and traditions kind of a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
we try to, it helps kind of build that culture and, passing, the stories on to the net, like the new people, and, they pass it down the line. So the history thing was like an easy transition for me. So being in one of the oldest cities in the country, there's a lot of fire service history. We have a fire engine in our station that's from 1928, like the original fire truck. So I'll probably end up doing an episode on my department down the line, but yeah, they'll all embrace it because we're all kind of history buffs in a way, being in our service. So yeah, it's been good.
Oh, that's awesome. What was that?
A lot better than I anticipated.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's well, that's cool. That's good.
Yeah.
So what is your specialty? What do people expect on your channel in regards to eras of history?
Specifically military history.
Mm-hmm.
I did cover a sugar mill that was nearby. That's kind of not military history, but definitely that genre, especially earlier in the American Revolution. I did visit a 1812 battlefield, which kind of gets forgotten about. It's kind of sandwiched in between the Revolution and the Civil War. So I don't really know a whole lot about that war. So that's a great learning experience. But a lot of battlefields, museums. What else? I do want to start branching off into I call it Civil War minutes, and it's just covering like just little facts, or if you're confused about some of the terminology, like I'm confused by a lot of things, but just kind of simplifying. Go to a battlefield, and I may not be able to cover every single intricate detail and movement, but if I could just make you aware that this battle give you a few of the highlights, hopefully you take it upon yourself to kind of research it a little more. And if you don't, that's okay too. If I can make you aware of something, that's my main goal.
Are you interested in any other eras past the Civil War?
Yeah, I mean, I love them all. Just seeing the progression and how, especially like World War One, it kind of directly led to the start of the next conflict. And just seeing how the tactics progress and the weapons progress. I love military weapons, and so I'm really not, just sold on the American Civil War. It's my favorite period to learn from, but I mean, anything military history wise, like I just visited the USS Yorktown, which was an aircraft carrier that served in World War II all the way up until amazing, different aircraft and things like that. So, I mean, I if it's military history, hopefully I can cover all of it.
So you're doing the whole spectrum.
Yeah. The Civil War is a little easier to do just because it happened here. Like I can go to a battlefield here.
Yeah.
Andersonville's 4 hours from my house, so I can take it there. Going to Normandy, or even the Pacific Theater. I mean, those sites are so remote compared to the mainland of the United States. So it's kind of hard to cover those topics.
Yeah.
Love to, but it's a little easier to cover those earlier periods being it's.
And then also you being so close, like, to all those forts and how rich, Florida is, makes it not easier, but there's just so much that people don't know. Like I had no idea that there was so many so much history in Florida. I had absolutely no idea. And then I was like, what? And when you told me that, I was like, there's how many forts? There's what? Wait, what happened? I'm like, people don't know about it. People hear about the more, modern stuff like World War II and the current conflicts and Vietnam, and that's not current obviously, but you know what I mean. So USS Yorktown. I know I saw that right before we went live and I was like, but I'm not going to ask too much about it because you're going to come out with a video. So but how was the experience? I will ask some questions. I won't. But how was the experience of visiting the Yorktown?
Awesome. I mean, you think like an aircraft carrier is big, but like that doesn't do it justice. We took a water taxi. It's on the other side of the Charleston Harbor. So we took a water taxi there, and we're pulling up, and you're like, how am I supposed to film on this thing? Like, it's going to take me days. So I do have to enlist my wife sometimes to do some filming and B-roll and things like that. But I mean, it was awesome. Whoever designed that museum and, did the flow nailed it. I mean, because there's World War II aircraft, there's Vietnam era aircraft, there's helicopters. They have a little museum. They have a Medal of Honor museum in the Yorktown. I didn't know. They have a museum with World War II artifacts inside the Yorktown. They have pieces of a kamikaze strike. I mean, like I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting, aircraft carrier. You see some of the rooms and a few planes, but man, that was.
And you were able to go like, no, I'm not going to ask that question. We'll see it when the video comes out.
Yes.
Sorry, I just got so excited when I saw
No,
that.
it's
My bad. So where's the one place in the United States that you want to go to visit historically?
Oh man. So I have a list, and
let's hear your list.
Oh man, it changes because you go down these rabbit on Google,
yeah.
you see something on social media, and then like right now I'm on a Yorktown kick. I found cheap flights. I want to go there. I want to do a series there, but I mean Harper's Ferry. There's mountains and hiking trails, and there was a battle there. Obviously, we know John Brown's raid, Gettysburg, Antietam, Manassas. And those are all within a couple hours of each other. Gettysburg, Antietam. So that's definitely going to be a trip that I want to do.
Yeah.
Shiloh, Vicksburg. I did go to the site of the Battle of New Orleans, so that's checked off my list. Pretty cool. I do want to go back to Lookout Mountain because I went there before Project passed. I got to go. I've been to Richmond, but I got to go back. There's so much I didn't film.
Yeah.
I mean, West Point. I went to West Point as a kid, the United States Military Academy. And, from what I remember, it was amazing, but I don't remember why it was amazing. So I want to go back there and do an episode there. I mean, Philly, full of American Revolution history. I want to go to Boston. I mean, it just keeps going and going and going.
Just keeps the list. Oh, that list. The list.
Yeah. But
because of the rabbit holes.
If you made me choose right now, it would be the Gettysburg area or Yorktown.
Or Yorktown. Oh, those are two areas I would love to visit, even though I do know like basic history about Yorktown and Gettysburg, because the Civil War is what got me into history.
Yeah.
That was in 8th grade. That was like, I'm not gonna say how old I am. That was a long time ago. But it's so great that America has such rich history.
Oh,
and these conflicts that happen. It's not only, other places all around the world. It's, America went through a lot of stuff that we don't know about or aren't that aware of. So no, I love it. I think that's super cool. Hold on, I got a question right here. Let's see.
Hopefully I can answer.
This is a good one. You might have already done that. Any plans to visit some of the forts in the Keys, Fort Zachary, Taylor, or Fort Jefferson, for example?
Yeah, it was funny because I was actually looking at maybe about a month ago. I saw a picture on Instagram of the Chattanoogas, and they had the fort in the background. And definitely the Keys is probably 6-7 hour drive. So it would definitely be if we're in the area 100%. It's just a matter of getting to the Keys. Literally at the the last land in Florida. But I would love it. My wife and I, we enjoy ocean snorkeling and things like that. So it's definitely on the list. I don't know how it will be, but it'll happen.
You'll get there eventually. So how many? I don't know if you know this. How many forts are in Florida?
I don't know.
You don't know? There's that many.
So there's. It's weird. So when they built the coastal fortifications, they did them in like series. There was like the first system, the second system. We have a handful of third system fortifications, which is like Fort Clinch. I think the one in the Keys is a third system. And then there's, I think, one in the Panhandle. So there's a handful of those. There's another one, I'm drawing a blank on the name, but it's in the St. Petersburg, Tampa area. Of course, we have the Castillo de San Marcos, which isn't it wasn't an American-built fort. It was built by the Spanish. I mean, to visit, I'm sure there's probably 20. I'm just throwing a number out there. I could be wrong. That I know of. I mean, like I said, there's a lot of markers where stockades would have been, especially during the Seminole Wars. Most of them are wood, so they obviously didn't stand the test of time. But there's so many sites. You said you wouldn't think of Florida as being really rich in history, but I mean, goes back to the 1500s.
Yeah, that's so I actually don't know. What are the different levels of fortifications that you're talking about?
So the first is so when we became a country, the need to defend the coast was in dire need. So they came
Mm-hmm.
up with the first series was like maybe earthen fortifications, wood fortifications, and
Mm-hmm.
90s, early 1800s, and then the second system came out. I want to say around the War of 1812, maybe a little before, and
Mm-hmm.
visited one called Old Fort Jackson near Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
And they were masonry fortifications, and then shortly after that, I think 1820s, 1830s, they started building what is called the third system, which is
Mm-hmm.
these are massive masonry forts along the coast, and it was defending riverways because the rivers were the highways back then. So if
Mm-hmm.
get inland in the rivers, and they can get to other cities and things like that. So usually they're on like inlets and riverways and things like that. As far as the specifics, I know the third system were the largest. They were the most heavily fortified. So you had that natural progression.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. I love learning history on these.
Yeah. And then I think there was the names escaping, maybe the Endicott period where they started
Mm-hmm.
updating them. I want to say like the late 1890s, early 1900s,
Mm-hmm.
updating with like concrete and larger naval guns. Usually when you go to like an older fort, you can kind of see like you have brick and then you have like this huge concrete structure. That's usually from like the Endicott period.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not like a fortification expert, so I could be wrong on the dates, but that's how you learn.
How do you choose what's on your channel? How do you choose what episode you're going to do?
So one, we look for the cheapest flights.
Mm-hmm.
And so if we find a cheap flight to Richmond, I'll go on
Mm-hmm.
Google and see what's there and then see how long we can stay. And then I'll try and make like a loose itinerary of what we can cover, because there's no way I can cover everything on a 3-day trip. So
Mm-hmm.
usually, like we'll find, or if we're like I said, Savannah's like a 3-hour drive for us. Charleston's about 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go to a city, I try to shoot at least 3 or 4 episodes, and then it's usually about a month of content. So wherever we go, I try to find something historical, and if I feel like if I can make an episode about it, then I will. I won't just throw something together. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, if there's something of some sort of historical significance, I try to get it in the channel.
What's the favorite episode that you've done so far?
The favorite.
Favorite, like what's the one? What's maybe not? What's the one that you're just like that was so amazing. That was just such a great time. I learned so much. I don't. I know favorite. I want you to keep going with favorite.
um, so I did Fort Matan, like we touched on earlier. That's like my favorite location to visit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I've been there, 15 times in my life. So while it's my favorite, it's not like super sentimental.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the National D-Day Memorial in Bedford, Virginia
Mm-hmm.
was really amazing. Kind of one of those places where, you go down the rabbit hole on Google, you don't know it exists, and then you find it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to go there.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the middle of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Bedford, Virginia. And apparently they put it there because I guess there was a large contingent of people that were in the 29th Infantry.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that they played a pretty big part in the D-Day invasions. But apparently, per the number of people that lived in Bedford, the number of people that they lost on D-Day was like the most per capita. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why they put the memorial there. So that was interesting to learn, and just I don't know, it's hard to explain. And when I was doing the video, I was early on, so I was still learning a lot, and I kind of look back and cringe a little bit because I feel like I didn't do it justice. But I mean, they
Mm-hmm.
had just the fountains. It was whoever designed it was, I mean, they hit a home run. They have the
Mm-hmm.
artifacts there. I mean, they had boots. I forgot the soldier's name, but they had boots from Utah Beach that someone wore. So I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I kind of, as I do this more, I kind of like those personal artifacts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, learn about the weapons and see, the planes and tanks and things like that. But when you get personal, I don't know, it makes it seem you have a better connection with it, I guess. You
Mm-hmm.
understand the sacrifice a little more. Even
Mm-hmm.
you never imagine what they went through. Um, so that was definitely one of my favorite places I visited.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a very like emotional experience.
yeah.
Just like, people who don't love history, they don't understand that you're like, why are you crying over a pair of boots? And you're like, you have no idea, like
It,
you have that.
it it's very humbling, and
It is.
for me, I served in the Army for 6 years, and my contribution was minimal. Like I didn't wasn't deployed anywhere. I'm very proud of my service, but when you see what these guys went through, you kind of feel guilty, and
Mm-hmm.
um, so I don't know. It's very humbling, and you can't help but feel gratitude towards not only our country, which is not perfect, obviously, but just
Mm-hmm.
that we have people that are willing to do those things is just an amazing feeling.
You said you were in the Army
I served 6 years.
6 years. Thank you for your service.
Well, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Did you do much history or anything, reading or stuff like that when you were in the Army?
No, I mean, I learned a little bit about my unit.
Mm-hmm.
It was a reserve unit.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say, so their reserves are kind of organized a little more. Like I was in the 53rd Infantry Brigade combat team,
Mm-hmm.
which dates back to, I want to say, the Vietnam era.
Mm-hmm.
They had some history in the first Gulf War, and then obviously with the war on terrorism, they were deployed several times. I was fortunate enough not to be deployed,
Mm-hmm.
but it was kind of cool learning about some of the things that the unit went through, and you kind of have that pride. You're wearing the patch on your shoulder, so
Mm-hmm.
that was pretty cool. And just to be a very, very tiny part of the entire history of the Army was
Yeah.
a cool feeling. It's cool looking back now. I'm glad I did it.
No, that's awesome. No, you should be very, very, very proud. So, um, what I don't know if I asked you this last time.
Oh, who knows?
Um, because my concept of time and my memory is very short-lived. Um, what is what was the most frustrating episode that you shot?
Man, if you ever saw me filming, you would like, how does he even put together an episode? Like I said, for some reason, turn on that camera, I kind of come up with a game plan in my head, and then I completely forget it, or like I say a word wrong and I don't realize it until I'm editing the film and I'm not at the site.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the most frustrating, oh man, it's bad that there's a few of them.
Or frustrating, embarrassing, kind of like this just took
I
way
mean,
too long to film.
I've done it all. I've tripped. I have hit my camera on the display glass because you're kind
Uh,
of and you're narrating it,
mm-hmm.
and you kind of, I guess your spatial recognition's off. So you're like zooming in, and like I hit the display. I was like, did I seriously just do that? I mean, I've tripped. I've gotten into people's way as I'm talking. I'm probably in like 20 families' photos in the background. So it's a learning process. As a whole, it's hard. As a whole, you're trying to get the content. You're like, oh, this is going to be good, but you also have to be respectful that you're not the only one there. Other
Yeah.
people are trying to experience this as well. So you're trying to find that fine balance of filming it and then not getting in people's way, and then you don't want to talk over someone that's trying to read. It's a learning experience, but you just got to make it work. I've learned
Yeah.
that patience is key, especially in some of the museums. They get kind of crowded.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to film people that you don't even have their permission. So you're trying to wait till the crowds go by, and then you can film, and then another crowd goes by. So it's a process.
Yeah, I so admire, people like you and Alec and JD and you know Chris and all those people, because when I was at the Evergreen Aviation and Space Museum, I'm not a history, I don't do the what you guys do or anything, but I was trying to film like a little reel video to show everybody,
Yeah.
and it got super busy, and it was so, I'm like sitting there like with my phone like doing this,
Mhm.
trying to like avoid people, and then I was just like waiting, and like I was like, I don't see how these guys do this, and then I was trying to do a story about a a PBY Catalina,
Mhm.
and just like you, if I rehearse too far in advance,
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going like,
You
and
mess it up.
then so I had to re-record it like, I don't know, 6 times. And then some guy was just sitting there watching me, and he was listening to what I was saying, and it was kind of cool because he came up to me asking me what I was doing, and I was like,
Yeah.
being a moron, you know. And he asked me about why, and I told him about it, but I don't I hats off to you guys for doing that stuff, because
Anytime we go somewhere, I'm like, I thank my wife. I'm like, you have the patience of a saint, and I'm so thankful because you're watching me trip over my words, and I'm cursing off camera,
mm-hmm.
over literal objects. I'm hitting objects. I'm like, I don't know how. Like, you can easily just abandon me and go over there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know this guy.
Maybe try filming it this way. I'm like, why are you right about this? I don't.
I know. Because she's your wife, that's why.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's next? What's next for the channel? What is
Um,
everybody? What are we going to be looking forward to here coming in the next couple months?
I got a lot of content. It's just a matter of finding the time to edit. I did a
Mm-hmm.
little bit on the Yorktown this morning. I'm
Mm-hmm.
shooting for the end of next week,
Mm-hmm.
Thursday or Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and that should be probably about a 20-minute episode. And then the Medal of Honor Museum within the Yorktown, I did,
Mm-hmm.
which was some of these stories that you're reading. Again, you're like, how? You know,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to sharing those. Um, what else? Oh, the World War II Museum in New Orleans. That's probably
Yes.
going to be a three-parter.
Oh, I'm so excited for that one.
Oh man, I haven't even I've glanced at some of the footage. I'm like, I have so
Mm-hmm.
much work to do. um, so it was mobbed. Like the crowd is the most crowded I've ever seen a museum, which is a good thing. People are getting out, and this is
Yeah.
the most destructive conflict in human history to date. Like this needs to be known by everyone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So again, that goes back on that frustration. Like, man, I'm trying to shoot, but also like this needs to be crowded. But
Yeah.
it was three massive buildings, and they had a gallery just on D-Day. There was Pearl Harbor. There was the leading up to the war and the war before the United States was in it. There was the Pacific,
Mm-hmm.
the European theater. There was all the aircraft in World War II. So there was like 7 or 8. I was there for 8 hours. And
You went to all three buildings in 8 hours?
it was tough. The
That
last
was
one, I literally like power walked to, and I filmed for like 20 minutes, and I hope I got enough, but they were closing. I was like, I don't know when I'm going to come back here.
yeah.
I want to. So
Mm-hmm.
it was tough. Like I said, it was crowded, so I wasn't really doing narration. So I
Mm-hmm.
put the voice into the edit. So that one's going to take some work, but I'm really excited about that one. Like I said, it
Yeah.
probably three-parter. There was a lot of filming.
I know I'm excited about that one because I'm going in August.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to see everything. I didn't know it was three buildings. That's whoa.
Yeah, they were building another one. So
Oh, really?
it's going to be open when you get there, but yeah, it's definitely on my list to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like I said, I like World War II, but I'm not, my page isn't centered around it, but there's so much to learn in there. It was cool.
So let's talk about your experience at the World War II Museum. Like, what was did it just kind of like open your eyes more to World War II history and like?
Yeah. Because that's not something that's really prevalent in Florida. There was a couple
Mm-hmm.
boats that were hit by German U-boats off the coast of Jacksonville, but as far as World War II, it happened in Europe and in the Pacific and in Africa,
Mm-hmm.
Italy. So to go there and see actual, like there was a C-47 in the lobby, like
Mm-hmm.
and that dropped paratroopers on D-Day, like that
Yeah.
in Europe, dropping paratroopers on the most memorable invasion in history.
Mm-hmm.
Then they had a German 88 that was actually captured. They had a Higgins boat, and apparently that's the plant to build those boats was in New Orleans, so that's why the museum is there.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
that's cool.
so
I didn't know that.
I learned Tom Hanks and Mr. Ambrose were really big contributors to
Mm-hmm.
the museum, so that was cool to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But just the artifacts that you were seeing were, you go to a Civil War museum, you see the artifacts, and then there's 100 Civil War museums, but like that is like the World War II museum. So
Mm-hmm.
I saw things that I've never saw before, pieces of the Arizona. Obviously I can't just go see the Arizona. It's in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So just to be able to see a piece of that, you know, seeing the planes that dropped troops in D-Day, the Higgins boats, actual bombers that dropped ordnance. I mean, it was cool. I like seeing. I'm a very visual person, so seeing
Me
that,
too.
kind of looking at it, and then, you know, looking back on some of the pictures you've seen with all the flak exploding in the air and things like that. It's just like, how is this thing still flying?
Yeah.
Something I didn't know too is the Higgins boats, they're plywood.
Yeah. They're
Like, so when you look at them, like, you think like there's at least armor or like a, you know, because they're gray, so they look like, you know, like a normal destroyer would or something. Like, I walked up and I touched it out, and there was a guy there. I was like, this is plywood.
You're like,
They made
weird.
the in plywood boats.
Yep.
It's amazing.
So, asking for a friend, if anybody on here is going to go visit the World War II Museum, how long would you suggest somebody spend there?
Oh man. So it was, like you said, like you heard, a day was tough. We got the museum opened at 9. I think we were there at 9:30 and at closing. And I felt like, you know, I'm obviously filming, so it takes me a little longer.
Yeah.
But definitely a whole day, and you make another day.
Yeah. Okay, so 2 days. All right. Perfect.
2 days.
You were talking about that the museum was like really crowded. Did you have trouble filming when you were in there?
I didn't have trouble. I had to use patience though. You know, for something that I really wanted to get on camera, again, going back to the whole patience thing, you know, I'd wait till the crowd goes by and then I'd film it, and it was loud in there, so I wouldn't do any narration. But I would just film it and then kind of read some of the signs as I'm filming, just to kind of multitask. And it was crowded, so I didn't want to get in people's way, but it was challenging. But I feel like I was able to get everything I wanted to. I don't know why I just thought of this. The museum itself is probably one of the most immersive museums that you're gonna go to. So like when you're going through the galleries, I won't give it all away. Like it changes as the conflict changes. So like on the Pacific Gallery, you're like in what looks like a ship. So like you're going over Pearl Harbor and Midway and some of the naval battles, and then next thing you know, you look like you're in the jungles and it's going over Guadalcanal. There's machine gun nets, there's bunkers, there's palm trees. Like, so as you're going through it, they decorate the area of what you're reading. So I don't know. It was awesome. Just the detail they put into it.
Oh, that is super, super awesome.
One was amazing. There was little snowflakes falling down, and it was cool.
Do you have any plans to come to like the West Coast and do?
Yeah. I don't know. Again, the list is Little Bighorns on my list. I want to go there, and I want to learn about the battle. You know, we know the end result, but I want to know like why they were there. I want to know, you know, what their mission was and things like that. I know you mentioned there were several forts by you in Oregon.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you come to Oregon, there's a bunch of forts up on the Pacific Ocean, and there's Fort Vancouver over here, but that was a fur trading fort. It wasn't anything like you know, war related, but you should definitely visit it if you and Autumn ever come over. Up and over. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't military history, but Alcatraz would be cool to see. The Alamo isn't really, it's kind of central, I guess. The Alamo would be cool. I think Hunstash history, Alec was saying that there's 2 Civil War era forts in New Mexico, Arizona area.
Oh, yeah.
And also you have the Mexican-American War that kind of in a couple engagements out west there. I think I don't know if those sites are still, if you're able to visit them or not, but definitely I want to branch out a little bit. You know, I really like I said, the American Civil War and the American Revolution, but I kind of want a little something for everybody.
A little something for everybody. That would be very awesome if you and Alec got together and did a video together.
What he covers, I didn't even know those existed. You know, you see him.
Neither did I.
You see him in pictures and things like that, you know, in high school, but like just know that they're still there and that they have meaning, and he's able to interpret them. I mean, that's such a unique and cool thing to see. I mean, I definitely want to at least lay eyes on some of those before my time, but Yeah, I know he's big in the Native American history too, and that's something
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to cover.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's prevalent in Florida, but I feel like places like Jamestown, and the further out west you go, there's
Mm-hmm.
there's so many sites.
Yeah. So what is what is your ultimate goal for Project Pass? Like what do you what like do you have a goal, or you just kind of
Um, at
going
first, I
with
just wanted to see how this YouTube thing is,
mm-hmm.
and to see if I even liked it. It's
Yeah.
always a little nerve-wracking, kind of putting yourself out there, especially like when you're covering history content. You're like, man, if I don't include every little fact, and if I get something wrong, which I do,
Mm-hmm.
people are going to eat you alive. But I kind of just got to the point where I just want people to be aware of the things that are around them, regardless of
Yeah.
part of the country you live in or even the world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just get out in your community, learning the history that's entrenched all around you.
Mm-hmm.
You always hear the term that, history repeats itself. Well, it repeats itself, and if we don't learn from it, how is society going to progress? You look back on history and look at all the things that we've corrected
Mm-hmm.
until this point. Well, if we're not going to learn from it, 100 years from now, how much more stuff are they going to have to correct that we didn't? So,
Mm-hmm.
it's critical for society to continue to progress. So that's my goal, just to make people aware of some things around them, maybe
Mm-hmm.
someone else to go out and start learning, about, I mean, regardless of what era of history, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully if I can get a few people aware of, some sites, and my mission's done.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I actually did have another question just popped in my head. In your niche, your genre of what you know, what do you feel like most people, what is the biggest misconception you feel that, what is the biggest misconception people feel about history that you hear?
That it's,
Or something that people get wrong, like about an event or anything? Both.
uh, I would say like history as a whole
Mm-hmm.
is not pleasant, at least most of
Yeah.
it.
It's
Um,
uncomfortable.
it's very uncomfortable. I
Very
mean,
uncomfortable.
just looking at the Civil War. I mean, if you go to any Civil War page and you go through the comment section, there's people refighting the war in the comment section. Like, it's a very gaping wound.
Mm-hmm.
So strongly, whether it was about slavery or whether it wasn't. And people
Mm-hmm.
will take that argument to their grave.
Mm-hmm.
Just about like, use facts to formulate your opinions. Don't twist the facts to justify your opinion. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I love George Washington. He's, if I could meet anyone from history, that's the guy I would meet. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
he owned slaves. I don't like
Yeah.
that. He did. I
Mm-hmm.
wish I can go back in time and tell him, you need to free them immediately. But history is history. And I think
Mm-hmm.
as time went on, he did put in the fact the Fugitive Slave Act again, which wasn't a good thing on his presidency. But as I feel like if he was alive today, he would be the first one to tell you that he was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
that I'm not going to twist those facts that I love George Washington and he loved everybody, and you got
Mm-hmm.
to approach history head on, whether it's pretty or not.
Yeah. And I say this a lot, and I swear my friends are gonna they kill me every time I say that. I say, um, facts aren't feelings and feelings aren't facts.
Yes.
And people get that feelings are facts confused a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then also a lot of the time, I have to explain to people that yes, what happened with George Washington, it was normal back then, like in that time period to
Yeah.
do, all those things that happened. Obviously today, it's not, that's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's what history is. You progress, and human as a society, we progress as a whole. And that's why history is so important,
Mm-hmm.
is because think about it, in 10 years, people looking back at stuff today, there's going to be stuff that we're doing here in 2022
Yep.
that's that's going to be like, oh, I can't believe you guys did that in 2022. It's just same thing with a lot of stuff that happened in the early 2000s. So
Yeah.
that's why I love history nerds and everything. It's
Yeah.
just a
Just
bunch of kooky people.
much as you don't like something,
Mm-hmm.
you can't change it. Just learn from it.
Yeah, you can. And how people sometimes want to rewrite history. It's like, no, I'm sorry that it happened and make you feel uncomfortable, but a fact is a fact. You
Yeah.
can't change it.
Like you said earlier, history is uncomfortable, a large majority of it, but that just shows you how society is progressing. If something 100 years ago makes us uncomfortable today, that's a good thing. Like that, it means beyond that. Hopefully,
it does.
Like you said, 100 years from now, they're going to look at things and be like, "Wait, we should do things this way and this way instead of that."
Exactly.
Yeah, like I said, use the facts to formulate your opinions, and don't twist facts to justify your opinions.
Exactly.
But I always tell myself.
That's what, it's a good thing. So,
yeah.
Wow. Is this your first time at Yorktown?
So I'm glad you asked that. So I went as a kid again to Yorktown and Williamsburg. There's just so much of it. As a kid, you're into like, I was into military history, but I was into like, the army men and the fighting. So really take the time to like really know where you were. So definitely one of the things that I remember from my childhood, but I couldn't tell you what I saw and what I didn't see. So I would like to go back and do I spent 3 to 4 days in just doing Yorktown, different aspects of the battle, and covering. There's the little town of Yorktown is right next to the battlefield. There's a lot of history in that town, so won't be my first time there, but it would be the time that I'm actually, I guess, learning from it. You can say.
Yeah, you're present. Well, it's different learning things as a kid. I remember my uncle took me. I cannot remember. I want to say took me to a World War II bomber, but I was like 7 at the time, and I was like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to see this plane. And looking back at it, I was like, oh my God, why didn't I like? But I can't remember it fully, so I'm just like,
oh yeah, as a kid, you don't understand the historical significance. You're like, oh, that's cool, that's a cannon, but like you don't understand like that cannon held a certain position, and the troops moved this way or this way. Like you don't understand all those things as a kid.
Exactly. Yeah, you definitely don't. But it yeah, so wow, this hour flew by fast.
It did. I'm not slowing down.
Yeah, I
know. It is
know.
not.
I know. Well, thanks so much for coming on again.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I definitely want to have you back on again. I want to have you and Alec on and do a little history, just chatting about history. So I want to plan
what
that.
Can go wrong on 2 firefighters talking about history?
Exactly. I know. That's why I'm like, this would be so perfect. So perfect. So
it's funny too, because like I didn't know when I first created my Instagram page, like I didn't know he was a firefighter, and he posted something, so I messaged him like history. I'm a fire. Like he even said, he's like, I feel like we're related, or like you're like,
something.
Yeah, we're so similar. I was like, yeah, it's weird. I don't have the cool mustache, but
yeah. That mustache, that mustache.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, what came first, the mustache or Alec? We don't know.
We don't know. It's quite possible that it is the mustache. So, well, James, thanks so much for coming on again. And I always appreciate it. It's always great. You guys, thanks for nail on the head. So we now know the mustache came first.
Yeah, that's all we need to know.
Yeah. So thanks all for tuning in. You guys can find James at Project Pass on YouTube and on Instagram. Are you on any other platforms?
I'm on Facebook, but man, Facebook's so weird. My priorities are Instagram and YouTube. On my Facebook daily, but as far as, I don't know, it's just weird. It's just a whole different world.
I completely agree with you. So you guys can find him there. This video will be available to rewatch, and I'll upload it the correct way, so this video does not disappear again. I'll link all of his stuff in the comments, but thanks all for tuning in. And James, thank you so much again, and I hope you have a fantastic Saturday.
Thank you for having me. Everyone enjoy the day.
Bye.
Take care.